Hi, Chris here. Today I've got a quick look at the new BlackBerry Z30. This is the new smartphone from BlackBerry. It's very similar to the Z10, which was released earlier this year, in that it's a full touchscreen device. It does not have a hardware keyboard like some other BlackBerries like the Q10. It is running the company's new BB 10.2 operating system. It's the first device to have this, although I believe the other two devices, the Q10 and the Z10, are going to be updated to BB 10.2 as well. So the big difference between this phone and the Z10, which was released earlier this year, which is sort of the closest comparison to it, is this has a 5-inch touchscreen on it as opposed to the 4.2-inch that the Z10 had. There's also some design choices that are a little bit different, like this one's got the sort of silver bezel around the sides, and it's part of actually an antenna, a new antenna system that we'll get into in the full review that BlackBerry's implemented. So the 10-inch screen is also being powered by a new processor. It's a Snapdragon S4, it's a quad-core processor as opposed to the dual-core that was in the Z10. And this one has some other features like a bigger battery. It's a 2880 milliamp battery, and it's non-removable. But the back of this device does pop off, where it houses some things like SIM and SD card, where you can expand the memory. It's 16 gigabytes out of the box. Then you can put another 64 in there. There's also mini HDMI, micro USB. And that's sort of it for the ports. On the other side of it, it's got hardware buttons for lock. Volume buttons are not a rocker, it's actually just separate buttons, which is kind of interesting. And they're also used for some other functions like camera buttons and taking screenshots. There's also a single button in the center of those volume buttons for other functions like voice control. So one of the cool things about the back coming off is that BlackBerry's also provided a case, which we've got over here. Let me just grab it. Case for the device that has a flip on it, so you just it's a hard leathery kind of case with a plastic back. You clip it to your BlackBerry. It's got space for the camera and all your ports, but it just sort of creates a little folio for you, and it also has kind of that it has a lock mechanism there, so when you open the device, your BlackBerry unlocks. So we'll get into sort of the details of 10.2. BlackBerry 10.2 in the full review, but overall this has been it's a great device. It's bigger. It's sort of definitely a little bit of keeping up with what everybody else is doing as far as larger screens. But if you're looking for a larger screen than the Z10, like something, if you're coming off of Android and you like the experience with a larger screen, it's definitely a good phone. The screen is nice and vibrant. It's still the same resolution though as the Z10. It's still that 1280 by 720 pixels. So it's about 295 on the pixel density, which isn't great. I mean, it's still sort of retina level. It is a great looking screen. And we've been told that although it's not an full HD resolution, the HDMI actually outputs to full 1080p resolution when you hook that up. So it's an interesting feature. It's certainly not, so the resolution on the device is not limiting what you're sort of outputting as. So you can look for the full review in the coming days on Whirlwind.